Welcome back to the Career Mapping with Mel and Mel weekly series. Today, we're going to each share 2 tips on establishing your mindset. And this is because we both believe so strongly that establishing your mindset is the first important step to making sure that your job search and overall career mapping experience works out. Without your mind, you have really nothing at the end of the day. And so we want to give you each our own tips for chiefs of staffs and EAs everywhere. So Melanie, do you want to start off with your first tip?
Yeah, so we all know the job search, it's a difficult period. We're not going to sugarcoat it or act like it's all rainbows and fun, right? It's a tough time. There's a lot that we can't control, but there's also so much that is in our control, and that's our mindset. So that's why we thought it was so important. Let's kick off with mindset talk, right? So my top 2 tips around your mindset during the job search are reframing rejection and having a growth mindset. So when it comes to reframing rejection, again, like I said, you're going to feel disappointed. You're going to feel feelings of frustration and maybe even sadness like during this process. But it's important that you keep in mind that these no's are often either not nails, which is important, or they are pointing you in the right direction, right? So some people say rejection is just redirection. Sometimes you're going to be told no because that wasn't the right thing for you. There's something better. And I know I don't want to mistake that with like toxic positivity, right? Like, oh, there's something better on the other side. But honestly, sometimes I want you to think through some of the opportunities that you were not chosen for and think about how that actually set you up for something better. Or it prevented you from getting into something worse. There's lots of times you're not the right fit for something, and that's okay. And it's better that you wait. Maybe it's another week, another month, even wait until you find something that's going to be the right fit for you. So try not to get too bogged down in focusing on what you didn't get and keep focusing on what's still ahead. And then as far as like some of those no's being not nails, keep that in mind too. Like, don't get frustrated. Don't burn bridges with companies. Sometimes they might have hired someone else and then that person declines the offer. Maybe they hire someone else and then 3 months later, they're like, this person was a bad idea. We want to go with our backup candidate. When you keep that positive, resilient, sort of confident attitude, they're going to reach back out to you, or maybe they hear about another opportunity that might be good for you. So keep that in mind throughout this. When you're getting rejected, you're going to get 100 no's. You're going to get more no's than yeses. That's just the math of it, right? You're going to apply for more jobs than you're going to receive. So
Can I add
I
something?
just want you to keep in mind, yeah.
I want to add something really quick because what you're
Mhm.
saying is like so great is I think that people forget, especially in a chief of staff or EA role, that we're supporting people, that this is a personality fit. And people forget that, people also just change their personality. They change what they want. Think about how many times we
Mhm.
change what we want to eat in a day. Like sometimes I want to eat Italian food, and then 3 hours later, I'm like, actually, for dinner, I want to eat Mexican food. So just remember that because we are usually we're partnering with a person is very different than other roles where you're supporting a program or a sales role.
Mhm.
So people can change their mind very quickly, or you can do one little thing that's maybe someone doesn't gel with. And it's really not about you always. It's sometimes really about the person and what they are looking for. And that's sometimes a blessing to be rejected by someone. And I just wanted
Mhm.
to give one situation for me is that I got rejected by Google, Facebook, Apple, like so many companies when I first got out of college. And then many of you may be watching know I ended up at Google a year and a half later. So when Mel says about, rejection can really be redirection. I'm actually so grateful that I did not start my career at Google and that I had a year at another company first. And because I had that first year at a very traditional company, it actually set me up very beautifully to work at Google because I knew how other companies work to actually appreciate a lot of what Google had to offer, and actually got along with a lot of people who, again, Google wasn't their first job, versus a lot of people who just worked at Google, they had a very different lens than I had and a lot of other people. So just remember what Mel says. It really can be a blessing in disguise that you don't get potentially your dream opportunity or any opportunity when you actually want it.
Yeah. And like you said, we're supporting people. And so that goes back to don't take it personal because that's a person that maybe you don't really want to work for. Maybe you're being spared from something. There's actually this saying that I really love that's like, you never know what worse luck your bad luck is saving you from.
Oh, I love that.
Right. And it's like, maybe you didn't get that job and you really wanted it, but maybe you're being spared from something a lot worse, like the headache and the stress and all the drama that can go into working for the wrong person. And so, yeah, just keep that in mind. Like, rejection is not, it's not something to be afraid of. It's good. Like, get through those rejections, get to the right opportunity for you. And then my other tip is around keeping a growth mindset. So there's growth mindset, which is the belief that you can continue to develop and grow and upskill yourself. And then there's a fixed mindset. And that's sort of the idea that like what you got is what you got. And like you got to deal with the cards you have, right? You can't get any new cards. And so I really encourage people to have a growth mindset, especially during the job search. Yes, there is a big goal of getting a job, of course, but try to set mini goals for yourself. Like, I'm going to apply to 10 jobs today. I'm going to set a goal of getting X number of interviews per week or per month. Whatever feels right to you and sort of aligns with what you're looking for. But setting those goals is going to help you keep a growth mindset of this is an opportunity for learning and development. And that's also why it's good to seek feedback from people. So do mock interviews with your friends, find a coach, find, an former coworker, get feedback. Even if you can ask your last boss, like get feedback about what your strengths and what your weaknesses are and use that as like, this is great. Like when someone's telling you what your weaknesses are, that's awesome. That is an awesome opportunity for you to learn and to strengthen those weaknesses because when they're blind spots or when you think like, oh, it just is what it is, that's when you stop growing. So those are my two big tips. Reframe rejection, consider it redirection instead. And, yes, you're going to deal with disappointment and some frustrations and sadness, but try to stay positive about this is pointing me in the right direction. Every single no is getting me closer to my exact yes that I need, and keep a growth mindset. You have a lot more potential and possibility than you might give yourself credit for.
Love
Mel,
that.
what are your two top tips?
Yeah, I just want to say about the growth mindset. I think that a lot of times people forget that this could be a really good opportunity to join, let's say, a chief of staff or admin community and just network and get to know people. This is a good opportunity to get a certification, take Melanie's course, like there's all different ways that you can actually really grow while you're job searching that you can put on your resume and that can also just have you network with people that might be hiring at their own companies, right? All of us admins or chiefs of staff, we usually know when our own companies are hiring, and what's better than pulling from people that we actually have a relationship with. And so just remember that like having a growth mindset also like, grow in that time period while you're job searching. There's so many things that I did while I was job searching, especially right out of college, that really helped me long term in my career because I had the time to be able to do that. Because my first tip is all about avoiding burnout. So again, you can't be job searching every day, all day, or you will burn yourself out. So maybe you take some of that time that you're not job searching to invest in your own, growth and development. And my first tip is really to avoid burnout, you must have a self-care plan. This is something that is extremely important beyond the job search career. It's really just in life. Sometimes I call it a trigger plan. If like something triggers you, you need to go have things in your toolkit to be able to
That's
go
good.
towards. Yeah, and I'll ask you, Melanie, maybe some things that you do in your self-care plan in a bit. But I think that a lot of times that people forget that you have to, one, I always say in everyone's self-care plan, it should be take care of your health and wellness first. We all know that without our health, we're not here. And perform better. I mean, I tell so many people that if you think that you're going to survive the job search or even a career when your health is really bad, like it is impossible. For me, I go to the gym at least 3 or 4 times a week. I eat very healthy. I hydrate myself with, I really only drink water and tea. And the reason I do this is because many people know I'm not super well with sleep, because I like to unfortunately stay up all night and I get myself fixated on all different things, or I like to work at night. But the things that you always have in control is what you put in your mouth. Literally, like, you control what you eat and you drink. And I always tell people, if you start with your health and wellness, start with just what you put in your body that way. Then obviously, sleep, hydration, or not hydration, sleep, stress management, and sleep, stress management, food, water, and what's my last one? Uh, my gosh, I always have one more. I'm forgetting, but I'll come back to it because I'm sure it will come back to me. But those are things that, again, that for me is going to help you avoid burnout. Because again, we all know that when we feel our best, we do our best. We're going to show up our best. We'll talk about in a later segment about a job interview. Well, if you don't feel good, you're not going to show up as your best self. So make sure that you invest in your health and wellness. And the other thing is, making sure that if, again, you get rejected from a job, like Melanie talked about, what are you going to do to kind of spark that thing inside of you, that you don't just like plummel down and get off the wagon forever? Because that is, people spiral very quickly. I have a lot of people that will text me or message me on LinkedIn and say, oh my gosh, I just got rejected from 3 jobs and I don't know what I want to do, and blah, 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 blah. And they start spiraling. And I'm like, let's come down for a second. Yes, you might have gotten rejected from 1 or 2 or 3 jobs. That is okay. What are you doing for yourself? Something for me, I listen to worship music. I go for a walk. I surround myself with people who will speak life into me. Find people that are going to speak life into you, that are going to remind you how great you are as like a human being and not just as a worker. And that's so important. Again, whether it's like eating a healthy food that I love or drinking something that I love, whether it's watching a show that I love, make sure you have something in this kind of like plan for you, that when you get rejected or just in general, so that you don't fall into this burnout. I don't know, Mel, if you have anything that you like to do, kind of part of a self-care plan.
Yeah, for me, I'm really big on going on walks and taking baths, which kind of
I'm
sounds
a big
weird, but
bath person.
like really like nice, luxurious, get the candles going, all that nice stuff. And I think you're like so right. Self care is such an important part of this. I add that it's so important to schedule it in. I have fallen into the trap of I wait to do self care until after I'm burnt out,
Yep.
and I'm like, oh, I gotta go get a massage or I gotta go for a walk. I have found it so much more effective when when self care becomes part of your routine, and you're just like, especially when you like establish a new schedule for yourself. You might be unemployed for one reason or another, and that's why you're on the job search. Establish a new schedule, right? And include self care in that. Don't wait until you get burned out to start taking care of yourself.
Yes, so important. You actually hit on a few of my other things, a part of my self-care plan, which I love walks, I love a massage, and I love baths. And I take a bath almost every night, very unapologetically. I've already told my boyfriend this, that, just know that when we live together, I'll be taking a bath frequently. Maybe not as much, but at least a couple times a week. Because that helps me. And like you said, being very proactive. Like, I know that for me, when I'm in the bath, so I have like a caddy. Sometimes I bring my Bible in there. Sometimes I play music. Sometimes I watch Netflix. Like, I'm all about the luxurious bath experience. And so for me, that really helped me even when I was job searching before as well, when I was younger. And I had to do that. I had to make sure that I did not burn myself out. And I just want to also say, if anyone's Christian out there, many people know that I am a believer. I know Mel is as well. She's posted prayers on LinkedIn. I've also posted a lot about my faith. I think, again, if you're not Christian, that's okay. Don't, skip this part. But if you are, just remember that, like, remember your faith. Remember to believe in God. Remember that, again, like Mel said, that sometimes rejection is just redirection. And remember that if we are Christian and we are here to, glorify God and to make sure that He's represented well, that you cannot be burnt out. God does not need a lot of burnt out Christians that are useless, to what he wants us all to do. He needs all of us to be strong. He needs all of us to be in a healthy mindset. He needs all of us to take care of our mind and ourselves. Just remember that, as well as to lean on your faith. The next tip, because I want to go into my second tip, is which I share a lot also my job search guide coming out. And I think I've said this maybe once on LinkedIn before, is you should approach job searching a lot of times like dating. Now, I can go on so many tangents about this, but I'll say again, one of the things you have to realize is that like when you date, not everyone is going to love you. Not everyone is going to get on their knee and propose to you, or you're not going to propose to who ever else on, to them. You have to remember, not everyone is going to be for you. The other thing is that I see a lot of people who will apply to like 50 to 100 jobs, but they are not thoughtful in their approach to applying. So you're not going to go date 100 people and just text them and not get to know them on, you're not going to surface level get to know 100 people. You're going to try to usually get to know, if you like to date multiple people or one person, one to whatever many, on a more deeper level, to see if you actually want to get married to them, just like if you want to actually work for them. So I tell sometimes people, don't apply blindly to 100 places or 50 places. Apply to like 5 places, but be really thoughtful in your approach. Like some people will send the same exact cover letter to everyone. I'm like, why are you sending the same exact cover letter? You need to customize it. You need to make it thoughtful. One of the things that my boyfriend always laughs at, or like he tells me that he loves, but we also laugh at it together, is when I was first with him and he was refiguring out his business. I said to him, I said, I will be a little bit hard on you, but it's because if you want to be with me, I aim to give people A plus advice. I want people to be an A plus. I don't date people who only want to be C or C plus. I said, you could be with someone else, but if you want to be with me, I'm going for the A plus. So yeah, I might micromanage a little bit or like critique you a little bit. And he always appreciates this. He's like, wow, you want the best for me. And I think that this is the same thing in job searching, is you have to remember, if you should give each application your A plus effort. You should give each time you apply somewhere, it should be like you are really giving your best foot. And I've seen so many people come to me when I look at their cover letter or their resume, I'm like, this is not A plus. This is not your best. Like I can feel it. You don't even really want to work here. You're just so desperate for a job. And just like again in dating, people sense desperation. And you don't want to date someone who's desperate. You don't.
Yeah.
And people don't want to hire people that are really desperate. I mean, this is a whole other topic that we can get to at a different point, is like when people post on LinkedIn, really, I'm not saying that you can't post on LinkedIn that you're open to a job, but some people are so desperate. And I always say, unfortunately, the world is probably going to judge you because a lot of people don't want desperate people to work with. Again, I'm not saying that's the correct thing, but that's just unfortunately what we deal with in this world. So just remember to think about job searching. And I can go on so many other tangents, but get the job search guide later on or message me to hear more about this. But like really think about job searching like dating, and would you accept this in the dating world? Even like on the receiving ends, like think about it. If you were someone that was receiving a cover letter that was being sent to every other place, the same exact thing, not trying to find anything about the company culture, would you want to work with this person? Most likely no. Would you want to date someone who literally was texting you the same exact thing that they just texted 20 people? You would not, right? Like your husband, Nate, you probably wouldn't have married him if you found out that he was texting the same exact stuff to 50 other women. I would not be with my boyfriend Matt if I found that out. And he probably wouldn't be with me, and Nate probably wouldn't be with you. It was the same thing. So just remember, be customized, be thoughtful, think about job searching like dating. And again, you must have a self-care plan to avoid burnout. Those are my 2 tips. I know Mel and I wanted to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome, because that's something that we hear this phrase a lot about. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I know Mel has her own thoughts on this. I will let you go first to share a little bit of yours.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that piece about the dating and the applying for jobs, because you're right. There are so many parallels there. It's kind of crazy when you step back and think like, this is really similar. And I definitely agree. The spray and pray approach is not effective. It's not working. Like, especially in our types of roles, chiefs of staff, executive assistants, you're working for an actual like leader. You're supporting someone. A human is on the other end of that. And so like, do you really want to work for them? Help make sure that you know whether or not you really want to work for them, and then make sure they know it, right? So doing that customization, the intentionality behind it. But yeah, so as far as imposter syndrome, I know we've kind of touched on it just in our side conversations. Personally, I know that a ton of people are, they're always talking about, I've got imposter syndrome, I've got imposter syndrome. It definitely seems like it affects a lot of us as women. We're, not feeling like we're good enough. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle for a lot of people. And it's something that there has to be some sort of like shift, because this idea that we've got imposter syndrome, it's not working out, it's not serving any of us. But yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing has always been building my confidence. And so if that means reading a book, listening to a podcast, taking a course, getting a certification, working with a coach, whatever I need to do to build up my confidence, that's how I've been able to avoid that. But I know it's super, super common. And I've worked for people who, like my most recent boss, Arlen Hamilton, has a huge platform, literally hundreds of thousands of followers. And I'm interacting with different people that, want to get to her. And it would be easy for me to fall into that idea of like, I'm not on the same level. I'm not, I'm not good enough or whatever, and to fall into that imposter syndrome. But what has worked for me is just reminding myself I'm here for a reason. And so whether I see it or not, someone has seen it in me, or in my case, I think whether God has seen it in me or my boss has seen it in me, I don't have to see it in me. I just have to know that it's there and then embody that. So that's sort of my take on imposter syndrome.
Yes, you are very nice in your approach to imposter syndrome. I want to give the little harsh reality
The
that I
tough one.
have. Yeah, I'm going to go off a little bit on imposter syndrome. So, for me, I've like convinced myself maybe that there is someone somewhere that wants a lot of women and minorities to feel this imposter syndrome. I feel as though that some people take it too literally, as it is like a syndrome and a disease. And I see so many people hold themselves back. Oh, I have imposter syndrome. It's like constantly fed and talked to us, that I feel as though sometimes it causes a very unhealthy ripple effect. That sometimes I've seen people like, I don't know, do I suffer with imposter syndrome? I'm like, okay, you're not suffering, like you're okay. And like you might not have it, but because it's like so drilled, especially I feel as though at so many, again, like women events and different minority events, I just hate that this is constantly perpetuated, because to me, really what the reality is, if you step in a room and you don't feel like you belong based on your skill set, you need to either level up your skill set or really ask yourself why you do not feel confident in yourself. And I'm not going to say I've never experienced feeling, again, like I would say in the working world, I've honestly never felt imposter syndrome. I know I'm very blessed to say that. When I was in college, I had an internship where the COO made me feel very little compared to these other interns, part of our group, because they all went to NYU and I went to a state school. So that was the only time that I think I felt any ounce of real, I guess, what people call imposter syndrome. But I think the reason why I haven't really dealt with imposter syndrome, even being in rooms where like I am the only admin, I'm the only woman, I'm like, in a room with a bunch of executives, is I truly believe like I'm there for a reason. Again, if you're Christian, it's like God placed me here for a reason. So even if I don't have the fancy title, even if I don't have the same degrees as them, like clearly I'm meant to be in this room. If I am in this room, I wouldn't be in this room, right? I think we need to remind ourselves of that. I think the other thing is that sometimes we actually really aren't as prepared or as like, I think that that's okay too. It's like, it's okay to be in a room and feel like, wow, all these people do have fancy degrees or all these people have so much years of experience. All that really means is that they're just at a different level than you. And that is okay. Again, you're meant to be in the room if you are in the room. I think the other thing is, I think a lot of people really do have to ask themselves why they lack self-confidence in themselves. And I talk a lot about this. I do a talk on finding and sharing the voice within you as an admin. And I talk a lot about like, you have to really trace back your history. Like, why don't you have confidence? Is it a relationship that you were in? Is it that your first boss said that you were a horrible admin and like really messed up? You have to really dig deep into understanding where that lack of confidence or why you feel like an imposter when you are clearly in a position for a reason. You're in a room for a reason. I think a lot of times, again, I just see so many of us that like use this term imposter syndrome. I want to like smash it so much. Like, I'm just like, I know it's ironic we're talking about this and I'm talking about how much I hate that we talk about this. I know, but it is important. I understand that a lot of people feel this way, but I hope that from my perspective, if you listen to me, you really ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What is preventing me from being confident in myself? Because a lot of times I tell admins, specifically, right? I'm not a chief of staff. I've been an EA, but I tell them if you are expecting to get paid $100,000, specifically to those admins that are like, I demand $100,000, $150,000, whatever it is, but you don't have confidence in yourself. What are you expecting me, who I don't even know you sometimes, to have confidence in you? You must have confidence in yourself first. It's just, again, remember dating. Why would someone want to date you if you're not even confident in why that person should date you? And I had to get over this. I always tell people I am so confident in the work world. In my personal life, I was so not. And the second I got over that last year, I took a whole year off from dating to get confident. Of course, I met my amazing boyfriend, Matt, and I have no confidence issues really with him anymore. I mean, every once in a while, but not really that much. And so I think that we just have to really ask ourselves, why do we deal with this? So anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. And anything else you want to say before we close out?
No, I love that. I think that hot take is a good way to wrap up our first episode.
Yeah, I think the last thing we'll say too is like I was telling Mel earlier that like we might disagree with each other, we might say things differently, and that's exactly why I wanted to partner with her. You'll see Mel is so sweet and so kind. I'm a little bit rougher around the edges, but I was like, that is so important to get both of our different perspectives. We both come from different industries. Sometimes we both have completely different backgrounds. So just remember that hopefully one of us speaks to you, and yeah, we're okay if you disagree with either of us or both of us. We're gonna still speak our minds, and still hope that these sessions help you. And we hope that this first session about establishing your mindset really blesses you, and you could take one or two or three or four things away from it, and also share with other people who you know might be beneficial to this. Obviously subscribe, like, comment, all the things. And we'll be back next week with another amazing episode to help you in your career mapping.